riders of last year's San Francisco Grand Prix. Defending champion George Hincapie felt the wrath of Fillmore, leaving 7 riders to the finish, including Lance Armstrong.
Bongle's on the right, leading out the sprint. On his wheel, Charles Dion, number 72 in the green. Charles Dion making his move, popping around Bongles. Charles Dion, 23 years old, from French Canada. Charles Dion wins out of nowhere.
He rode a heck of a race. To be honest with you, I've never even heard of him, but you don't stand in the front like that and then win a sprint easily, so without being a good bike rider.
Talk about great cyclists. Lance Armstrong is at the top. Fresh off another ride down the Champs-Élysées, the 5-time Tour de France champion is here. He'll have to contend with defending champion Charles Dion and some of the world's premier cyclists as they take on San Francisco one more time in the T-Mobile International. You're looking live. That's a Sky 7 chopper shot at the city of San Francisco in all of its glory. A glorious day and a day that has the buzz of this race now coming into a roar. As you can see, the crowd is building as we get ready. More than 200 professional riders already on the street to start a grueling 108-mile race through the punishing streets of San Francisco. And of course, Lance Armstrong is here. There's Lance. He came here with a 102-degree temperature. He's talking to the mayor. I hope he didn't give him the flu. But Lance, nothing stops him. He is ready to start this race. Hello, everybody. I'm Martin White, and welcome to the T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software. Of course, last year, this was the San Francisco Grand Prix. And of course, our team coverage, ABC 7, will be covering this race in its entirety. Joining me here at the booth are our broadcast central, 2 accomplished cyclists, and of course, broadcasters, Jessica Greco, bronze medalist in the '93 World Championships, and John Eustace, former U.S. Pro Cycling champion. And right off the bat, we got to talk about this course. We got to talk about this field. We know about Lance Armstrong. The field itself is really stellar.
It's a terrific field, the best field possibly ever in North America. You have Lance Armstrong, you have Stefano Garzelli, Gilberto Simoni, both winners of the Tour of Italy, Alexander Vinokurov, 3rd place in this year's Tour de France, and the entire North American racing contingent. It's going to be a fantastic, hard-fought race.
All right, John, let's take a look at the course, because the course itself has become a star in racing circles. Jessica, this is it. We got 3 quick loops of this 100-mile course right around the Fair Building before we start the riders going out to what we would call the outer course. They would go out then, of course, up Broadway and Columbus and looking across to North Beach, and then they would head down the marina. Off to the right will be the bay. Ahead of them will be the Golden Gate Bridge. And along, of course, the edge of the Presidio. This is a beautiful course at this point. I think a very scenic part of the course.
Magnificent part of the race course. They head up Greenwich towards the big obstacle, Fillmore Street, 18%, 0.6 of a mile long. The field will break up there. There'll be a great chase down on the flatlands, but back up Taylor Street, and that is the final punch to the solar plexus of these bicycle racers. Again, a 16% half-mile grade. Then at the end of the race, there are 4 5-mile laps to finish it up. 4 times more up Taylor Street, and that is where the final blows in this bike race will be thrown, and the separation between the men and the boys will occur.
Of course, we've got the Webcor King of the Mountain on both those climbs, on Fillmore and, again, on Taylor Street. And boy, we are looking and racing, of course, of today with a great field, and of course with Lance Armstrong at the very top. This is going to be a dramatic race. And the man himself, Lance Armstrong, is at the start line with our own. I'm sorry, we won't have Lance Armstrong at this point, but we're going to tell you about our ABC 7 team coverage. We're going to start at the start line with our own Larry Beal. Larry.
Hey, thanks, Martin. We've got thousands of people lining the Embarcadero, and so many of them just want to get a glimpse at the man, the myth, the legend, the 5-time Tour de France champion, Lance Armstrong. We're going to talk to Lance in just a moment. You can see the crush of media, photographers. Everybody wants to get a look at this guy and see him in this race. But our coverage, we've blown out the budget. We got helicopters with cameras in them. We got motorcycle coverage with cameras on them. We got cameras on the streets. We're all over the streets and the city of San Francisco. Let's head on down the road. The next stop on the way, up Fillmore, and Stacy Handler is there. How you doing, Stacy?
Great, Larry. It's a party up here. This is the reason that cyclists are among the superhuman, because it's a classic San Francisco hill. They'll be coming up more than a quarter mile of Fillmore Street, and it is just grueling. They've had a couple of cyclists come up here actually a couple of minutes ago. They did a great job, even at a foot race, of some people. I'm pretty sure they're probably sprawled out somewhere exhausted after running up that hill. Party people are 10 deep on each side, and they're just waiting for this race, and they're going to have a great time. So we'll be bringing some reports from the fans throughout the race. Now another classic San Francisco hill. Elizabeth Bermudez and Eric Thomas are over at Taylor and Union.
We are. Thanks so much, Stacey. You know, once those cyclists go Fillmore Street, they also have the Taylor Street Hill. We've got a lot of folks turning out here this morning. You see about 5 or 6 feet. Folks have their cowbells.
Sportsbook.com is here as well.
Yeah, the die-hard fans are here. They want to see the grimaces on the riders' faces. They want to see the sweat pouring as they try to climb up this half mile. 15% grade at the top of the final elevation, 125 feet. Can you imagine the leg-burning potential of all that? We're going to be watching it from right here along with all these fans. Martin, back to you.
All right, Eric and Elizabeth, dynamic team coverage, and I tell you, in 3 short years, this race has already grown to be maybe the best in America and one of the best, certainly, in the entire country.
Oh, it certainly is. You've got this tremendous field that have come from all over the world to race on this incredibly and challenging race course with a fan base like we've never seen. You've got 500,000 people surrounding the streets of San Francisco going crazy. They've been camping out since last night on Fillmore and Taylor Streets, and the enthusiasm, the media coverage, it is fantastic.
Yeah, one of the best races in the world, Jessica, and the women did it earlier on, and they've shown that, hey, this course maybe can be conquered today.
It really can be conquered, but they do need the help of this crowd. It just really motivates you on Fillmore and Taylor Street. We're talking 16 and 18% grade. This is what makes the race so grueling.
All right, the best racers in the entire world, they're here. A stellar field, the greatest field ever assembled probably in America, but right at the very top is Lance Armstrong. And yes, now, finally, minutes ago, Larry Beal talked to the man himself at the start line.
All right, we are here with the man, Lance Armstrong, 5-time Tour de France champion, and here in San Francisco. It's great to have you. First and foremost, we've heard you've been sick. You had a high fever a couple of days ago. Give us the update on your condition.
Well, I feel better. I mean, it's kind of a typical 24-hour stomach bug that, for all of us parents, know what it's like when one kid gets sick, the next one gets sick, and the next thing you know, the whole house has it. So I feel better. Friday was a bad day, and I was just laid out, slept all day, but I felt okay yesterday, and this morning I feel okay too, so we'll see.
This is the second time in 3 years here in San Francisco that you've gotten sick before this race. What do we have to do to keep you healthy here?
I know, but even 2 years ago, Luke got sick, and then the next thing you know, we're all sick, so I don't know.
Bring the kids over. I'll do some babysitting, all right? I can be sick. You can't be sick.
After the tour, the body's just worn out, and it doesn't fight off those things as well as it probably should.
You look at the list of names that we have here today. You're right at the top, but you got Vinokurov, you got Simoni. This is maybe the best field ever assembled for a race on American soil. It would not have happened if you hadn't signed on 3 years ago. You've got to be really happy just given the growth of this event.
Well, it's this is a classic race. I mean, not in the sense of its longevity, but in the sense that it's a great city. It's a fantastic course, hard, challenging, exciting, and I think the guys, those guys want to come to America and they want to come to a cool city like San Francisco. So, if you gave them a chance to go to, I don't know, Peoria or something, they may not be here. But I think it's also a real compliment to the city of San Francisco.
Outside of yourself, who's the man to beat, and who will you be watching out there?
I suspect the winner will be a domestic rider. I think somebody from Chris Horner from Saturn, or these guys, the guys that have done the tour, or even like Simoni's done the Giro and the tour. I wouldn't expect them to be at the front. It'll be a rider from the States.
All right. Sunny, warm conditions. Is that going to sap the energy of a lot of guys?
Yeah. I just came from Austin, where it's 95 degrees and about 80% humidity, so this is cool.
Awesome. Well, you're cool. We're glad to have you here, and I'll see you at the finish.
Thank you. I hope to be there. Still.
All right, Lance Armstrong, he's at the very top, but what a stellar field. We're getting ready for a great race. We're moments away of the start of the T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software. There he is, Lance Armstrong in the field at the Ferry Building. We'll start shortly. The team live at the start line of the T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software. The start is just minutes away. The mayor himself is going to have the start. So we're going to kick it off. That's the start line. Of course, Lance Armstrong leading his U.S. Postal Service team. And we're underway.
In the last couple years, you've seen tons of aggression in the first few parade laps, and I think it's a lot of dark horses in the beginning. They want to get out front. They want to take a gamble and just get to the front and make it hard right from the start.
They're off and running. Almost 200 of the finest racing cyclists in North America and Europe. With a Tour de France winner, a Tour de France podium placer, Alexander Vinokurov, the rider from Kazakhstan. You have Gilberto Simoni, Stefano Garzelli. It's a fantastic field, and it's an honor to be here broadcasting a tremendous bicycle race like this one in such a beautiful, beautiful setting, Martin. And look, a high-quality field.
And John, look at the crowds lining the streets. I mean, this race started 3 years ago. About 150,000 lined the street. Last year, it doubled to 300,000. This year, expecting up to 500,000 people to watch this race. And we're in competition against the 49er game, which is in St. Louis. And, of course, the Raiders are playing across the bay, and the Giants are playing right here at home. It just says a lot about the popularity of cycling. And one guy I think you got to point to is Lance Armstrong, who's really brought that out.
He absolutely has a fantastic rider, a fantastic story with his return from cancer, his 5 consecutive Tour de France victories, and especially the great difficulty that he had to win the Tour de France this year. He won, but it showed the fighting spirit that we so love in that man, and that has certainly made the story of him even bigger.
And there's a man that I've gone to know in the 3 years that we've done this race, Trent Klosner. Here's a guy that has always been up and among the leaders and been a competitor all the way down to the end.
And that's right. In 2001, he won the Pro Cycling Tour. He's riding very strong, but really it's all about his teammates, I think, in this race, because he's going to try to propel Mark McCormick, who's in the standings right now in the Pro Cycling Tour 4th. If Mark wins here, he can win the whole Pro Cycling Tour.
Yeah, John, I think you should point out that there is a race within the race here, not only to win this prestigious title, but also to be the overall champion in the Pro Cycling Tour.
Absolutely. The T-Mobile International is part of a series of races called the Professional Cycling Tour. They are the Wachovia Professional Championship in Philadelphia, a Wachovia race in Lancaster and Trenton, the New York City Cycling Championship, and of course the T-Mobile International, a series of races trying to become the definitive series of races for professional cycling in North America, similar to the PGA Tour. And currently the Saturn team, there are a host of contenders, which we can talk about later, who are in contention, and that title could very well be decided on the finishing order in today's event. So there is a race within the race, Jessica, as you said, and we'll be talking about that throughout the day's action. But again, Jessica, as you said, the race has launched at a nice, fast pace.
Yep, they started off, of course, this is their mini lap. They take 3 circuits around the Ferry Building. This is their second time around. As you can see, the pack, no one has really pulled away. This is not at that particular time where they would really start their tactics of trying to pull away. Is it not, Jessica?
Well, like I've said, in the past 2 years, you've seen a lot of aggression right from the gun. And a lot of times, that's the dark horses or the rabbits. These teams are going to send riders up the road and make the other teams work hard. So towards the end of the race, their top guys are fresh and ready to make the really decisive moves.
Some colorful uniforms. You're going to notice that. And a team to watch for is Zebra, because they've got the most colorful uniforms out here. I don't think you'll miss them when you see them. They are definitely the Zebras out here.
Fast action right from the gun. The race opens up with 3 1.3-mile laps of 4 miles total right around the start of the race. As we take a look at Lance Armstrong, and the normal blue Postal Service jerseys changed to the gray. They trotted those out on the final day of the Tour de France on the Champs-Élysées, a commemorative jersey for the United States Postal Service. Had to pay a fine to the Tour de France because they wore those jerseys, but hasn't seemed to dissuade them from carrying them on to today in San Francisco. Changing jerseys in the middle of the season, not looked well upon by the ruling powers in the cycling world. But if you're Lance Armstrong, you can do pretty much whatever you want.
What you want, and it's a classic because we're talking about merchandising and marketing. Everybody's now got to go out and buy the great gear, which is not a bad thing.
They're clever people.
And we've got a little attack happening, Jessica, at this particular point early on, because we have not made our 3 interloops yet. We're just about to come across the start-finish line now for the 3rd time.
And it's just so amazing. Once again, look at this aggression. This race is over 104 miles, and they are just going from the gun, trying to make things happen very early on.
And trying to probably discourage someone, at least to get out so far. They would discourage some of the stronger riders and maybe continue and be able to have enough strength to make it up when they get to the hills, because they have not yet approached the hills, and they will do this after this 3rd lap.
We've got a couple of names. Here are 2 riders in front. One in the front is none other than Jonas Carney, who is a flatlander. If there ever was a flatland racer in the United States, he is good for, as his team director told me, 2 hours and 15 minutes in a bicycle race.
That's about 30 minutes short. Huh?
Anything at all under 2 hours and 15 minutes, he can win, as long as it's not a big hill. Besides that, he seizes right up with cramps. It's over for him. Another rider from California, Webcor-based team, sponsors of our hill climb championship, Mike Taylor. So 2 riders not looking to be there at the end of this race, out there as rabbits for the team, looking to get some glorious TV time for their sponsors.
That's right, and you were talking about Jonas Carney, the ultimate flatlander, and actually I grew up racing with Jonas Carney in New Jersey, and I have to say I was a flatlander, so it must be something about New Jersey and liking flat roads. I don't think Jonas or I would really like these hills coming up with Taylor and Fillmore.
Well, he's having his moment in the sun. Of course, there is Lance Armstrong racing in his U.S. Postal Service team Grays at this particular point. They're just staying in contact in the pack, and with Jonas Carney out in front.
So our 2 men are out in front, about a 15-second lead on the field. Chasing them down, Lance Armstrong looking relaxed. A long way to go for our Tour de France hero.
108 miles of this race. We're just starting out. But hey, we expect some wheel-to-wheel, spoke-to-poke racing right down to the finish. We're going to be back with more of the coverage of the T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software. Stay with us. Welcome back. T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software. There is Lance Armstrong, 5-time Tour de France champion. He is still in the peloton, the pack, racing now as we're just getting underway in the 108-mile race through the streets of San Francisco. And Lance is standing as Jessica Greco and John Eustace, and Lance up on his bike already. This is something, this race with a great start.
No, it's a terrific race. It's a wonderful fast start. You've got a little breakaway going already. There's Armstrong, nice and relaxed in the field. Armstrong has been saying that he's here in a support role, doesn't look to be informed to win the race. He says he's tired from the Tour de France, has a fever from his chill Friday. But there are a lot of quivers in the arrows rather in the Postal Service arsenal, and one of them is Vyacheslav Ekimov, the Olympic time trial champion, a man of 37 years old, who's been crucial in being a general, in guiding Lance Armstrong to his 5 consecutive victories in the Tour de France, and who has also just won the Tour of Holland last month in Holland, obviously. So Ekimov looks to be 4th place last year, the Postal Service man for the day. And our field appears to be all back together, Jesse, as our early breakaway has been absorbed. Another rider going up on the right side of the field, a little escape. Some of them trying to get away before the action explodes on the first of the brutal climbs up Fillmore and Taylor.
And that's right. You can see at the bottom of the climbs, you'll start to see everybody clumping together, and it's almost like a race to the bottom of a climb. Riders always want to be up front into a climb, because if you're in the back, riders start to, drift backwards, and you get really hung up. So always want to be at the front when you come to the bottom of a climb. It's like a race before the race up the climb.
Absolutely. And it also happens after the climb. You race to be in top position, Martin, and start that climb in the best position, the most dominant position that you possibly can.
Okay, John and Jessica, the race is starting to shake down. We got Trent Klasner, who was in the lead at this particular time, but there was a lot of racing left. Let's talk about this course, because it has changed slightly in the last 3 years. It is still the toughest course in all of pro cycling. ABC7's Mike Schumann had a chance to go out on this grueling course with the man who designed it.
I mean, we talked about riding the course today. I'm ready. What's going on with you?
You know, I was wondering why your riding clothes look so much more professional and mine looks sort of...
Amateur?
You're not the first guy to say that to me. Get out of here. I'll meet you at the hills.
Let's go.
After leaving the start-finish line at the ferry building, bikers take a cruise through North Beach, the marina, parts of the Presidio, and then hit that dreaded Fillmore Hill.
All right, Dan, this is where the race really begins, the Fillmore Hill.
It's very true. So far the course has been somewhat flat, somewhat rolling, but now the real race takes place. We've got this climb to deal with. It's over 20% at some stretches. It's short, it's steep, it's powerful.
Okay, you're going to show us how hard it is.
I will show you how hard, but you're coming with me on your bike,
yeah,
right?
My bike will be here in a second. Something about the seat or something, but I'll see you at the
You
top.
need me there? All right, let's go.
While Dan struggled up the Fillmore Hill, I enjoyed the beautiful views from this vantage point.
Doesn't look that hard. All right, we'll go left on Broadway here. My bike should be here any second. The helmet showed up. All right?
I hope so.
All right, buddy.
I hope so.
Where are the best seats in the house on race day?
Well, this course has to be one of the best venues in the world to watch a bike race. What are some of the great spots? This has to be one of them.
No, this is one of them, Fillmore Street, Taylor Street. But the great thing about cycling is that the stadiums are the streets. So here in San Francisco, we have the most beautiful stadium in all the world.
If Fillmore Street isn't enough of a challenge, you then cut back through the city with the Taylor Street Hill lurking, and this is where a lot of the race's strategy can happen.
It's almost like a chess game in the sense that you need to be well positioned, but hey, the climb's the climbs. Either you have it or you don't on Taylor and Fillmore.
Well, in just 3 years, this race has become internationally known among the elite riders.
More international teams are coming every year. Better riders are coming every year. Lance and the Postal Service team is here and takes this event very seriously in its season schedule. So this race has very, very quickly become one of the top one-day races in all the world.
As we come back to the start-finish line at the ferry building, only one of 12 laps on this 108-mile course, well, I took it from here.
Are you going to get on a bike today or what?
Why don't I finish? Do you mind if I finish?
Sure, why not?
Okay. All right, for Dan Ossiopo, I'm Mike Schumann, ABC7 News, and I'm going to go ahead and finish up the race. Here we go.
All right, welcome back. Yeah, this is live action. We have the best seat in the house. You've got the best seat in the house because you're going to see all the racing in all parts of the course. At the start-finish line, a guy who's going to definitely be up close and personal is our own Larry Beal. Larry.
Well, how you doing, Martin? I've got the man. You just saw Dan Ossiopo in the tape piece that we had. He's joining us live now as we talk about what's turned into a grand spectacle here each and every year. Talk about the worldwide buzz, first of all, because we got a great field and just this sense that you get from the cyclists who want to be here.
It's true. I mean, San Francisco is a world-famous city, and when we started our bike race here, we kind of knew it could look like this. It would take some time in building. We never thought in year 3 we'd have Grand Tour winners in Lance here, of course, but also Simone and other Tour of Italy winners. The third place finisher from the Tour de France is here. Our Postal Service team is here in full force. The people are out. The weather's great. I mean, this is exactly what we knew it could be. I just think in year 3 we're shocked it could happen so quickly, but we always knew San Francisco could host a world-class event, and we're seeing it today.
Let's talk about the Postal Service team. Everybody focuses on Lance, but you got a bunch of other guys working to help him, and he helps them, as we saw a couple years ago with George Hincapie. He won the race. George not here today competing, but if it's not Lance, who might it be from USPS?
Well, it's true, Larry. Basically halfway through the race or so, the riders have a radio communication to talk to the coach and talk to each other. I'd say about halfway through the race, we're going to kind of make a decision to see how Lance is feeling and how Eki may be feeling, Vyacheslav Ekimov. And at that point, you kind of make the decision on the road as to what may happen and what may not happen. But Eki is solid. He was 4th here last year. He's a real professional. He'll be there in the finish. I'm pretty confident he'll be in the winning group. Can he outsprint someone like Dion again? If that happens again, who knows? But Christian Vandevelde is another young rider. I think the wild card for a team here. He's had a half-decent year. He's coming on stronger now, so he's really focusing for this race. But between Eki, Christian, Lance, Damon Kluk of our team as well, we're stacked.
Just to sum up here, we saw you attack the course. Mike Schumann didn't want to try it. You know, I like to think of myself as a guy who's in pretty good shape. Lean, mean, machine. You don't think I could make it up that hill once, right? Be honest.
Attack the course. I wasn't attacking the course. I was trying to survive myself, but you need to be fit. I mean, it's brutal, 22%. not any pedestrian can jump on a bike and climb 22. You can do it, I know.
Oh, no, we're changing our tune on live television. All week long he was saying, Larry, we'd be scraping you up off the pavement. You have no shot. Next year, baby. Let's go back to Martin.
Okay, Larry, Dan, yeah, thanks a lot. There's our lead racers right now at this point. They're coming up Fillmore. They were down Marina Boulevard, and they're going to be headed down Chestnut and then out toward the Presidio. We're going to take a break. We're going to bring you all the racing action. Stay with us as the T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software continues. T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software. You're looking at our Sky 7 helicopter shot. The skyline of San Francisco, but down on the streets, racing hard, and I mean racing hard, is the Peloton, a pack of riders out front as they're going up Baker Street, headed for the Fine Arts Palace, and one of the great views. You can see the marina off to the sideline, to their right side. Jessica and John, the Peloton has caught up with the two racers that were jumping out front, as you pointed out, Jessica, kind of this rabbit in there. It looks like somebody's trying to break away again.
That's right. We had Lionel Sin and Larry Pereira off the front. They didn't get much distance, and the field has basically swallowed them up.
It looks to me like a bit of despite the attacks, we've seen a bit of a calmer start to this race than we've seen in past years. The first year, certainly, the race exploded right from the gun, Trent, under the impetus of Trent Klosno, who tried a little bit to do it again today. But it seems, from what we're seeing here, that they're taking a more leisurely approach, if you can, in a professional bike race to the event, which means it'll be that much more quick and fast and brutal towards the end.
And this is the only shots, ugly shots we have in the entire race, the Fort Mason shot. So we're going to go to Eric Thomas, and he's inside a building. Eric, of course, stationed near the Taylor Street Hill. What's up, Eric? You in a building?
Well, Martin, the race is all about positioning. Watching the race is all about positioning. Britta Gilbert's apartment faces Taylor Street. She's got this big window, and she's invited some people over. Britta, lean out and wave hi to everybody. Okay. You were watching this because you're all big cycling fans, right?
That's right. We're rooting for Trent Klosno of Team Saturn.
Tell the truth, you're not a big cycling fan. This was a great excuse for a party, right?
That's right, exactly.
So how many people have you invited over, and what are you guys doing?
We're having some Bloody Marys, some mimosas, eggs Benedicts, and we're expecting 30 people maybe.
That sounds like a party to me. So once again, from Taylor Street, the vantage point, once the riders get here, they'll have the best of both worlds, inside, out of the elements, and being able to watch it both on TV and live at the same time. Martin, back to you.
Okay, Eric, we're going to have you to stay away from the Bloody Marys, but you can have some of that Eggs Benedict. And here's some help with one of the Team Saturns. A mechanical problem, John?
Yeah, that's number 4. That's Tim Johnson, former United States cyclocross champion, 25 years old, Massachusetts native, yanking. Oh, that's not a happy camper.
He's not
right
a happy
there.
man.
Computer not working, radio system maybe not working. Anyway, the bike's a bit lighter.
Well, he's catching back up with the Peloton at that point with that lighter bike. But he was not a happy camper, Jessica. I mean, that can be frustrating when anything goes wrong in a race of this long and an endurance when everything has to be just right.
That's so true, and that's now we start to see the team support. Each team has a team vehicle behind, and Tim Johnson had some problems. He talks to his team. They all have communication systems. He goes back, and he's able to go back to the car and get some support.
And we'll hopefully be able to talk to some of these team managers because they're also riding along, strategizing, looking at what's happening with the other teams and communicating, I think, to their riders.
They certainly are. The communications between riders and cyclists are just as important between a baseball manager and his pitchers. They talk, they have signs, they have now with the radio communications, they can really dictate tactics. Right now, the field strung out in a single line under the pushing of the Colavita Bola team, a California rider named Carl Bourdin, trying to keep himself in position as they approach the first big test of the day, the first climb up Taylor Street to the Webb Core, King of the Mountains. There it is. What a magnificent shot. What a unique shot in the world of professional bicycle racing. And the crowds up there are nothing short of spectacular. And this is what they've been waiting for.
This, of course, is the first hill challenge on the Fillmore Street Hill. And the Webb Core King of the Mountain will be crowned. The first one up this mountain, up the hill, going it down and making the turn to Broadway, will get a bonus, some cash money.
That's right. They'll give points out. 5-3-1 for the top 3 riders up the climb. Whoever has the most points at the end of the race wins. But you will see some riders focusing on these King of the Mountain points. They have to finish the race.
Oh, so, big key. You just can't jump up and win those points and then drop out.
Exactly.
There's a motorcycle in the middle of the action. Photographer, get out of the way there as the field lines up the hill, taking a look at who could be in front. And excuse me, I did call that Taylor. That is absolutely the Fillmore Street climb. Already the field strung out. All of your favorites, anyone who wants to do well in this race, should try to be the top 20 or 30 of this bicycle race, even at this point early on, because the severity of this hill causes gaps to open. You never know. A breakaway can go, something can disappear, and you can lose control of the bike race. So already, the severity of this course, the big stars should be attentive and keeping themselves towards the front.
You can see how spectators have come into play. You saw them bump into them, and remember this year's Tour de France, Lance Armstrong took a fall, and the spectators, you have to be very careful as far as the riders are concerned.
It's true. The spectators get really excited. The riders are excited. As much as they are excited, they have to kind of back off. Some of the riders will really come close to the barriers. And another thing on these steep climbs is you always have a tendency sometimes on steep climbs to maybe drop your chain. And when the climb is this steep, it's really hard to get your chain back on, and you could basically fall over.
Now, we talked about important riders staying near the front of the race. Now, we don't have their numbers, but I would say that man is none other than Alexander Vinokurov. Yes, from Kazakhstan, the man that could quite possibly, in my opinion, certainly, be considered the best all-around professional racing cyclist of 2003. He was heroic in the way he attacked Lance Armstrong during the Tour de France. He wasn't even supposed to be his team leader, as we look back at Lance Armstrong again, somewhere near the front of this race, keeping an eye on it. So the stars are coming out. Your European jerseys, your Tour de France stars, your Tour de France riders are all over the front of this bike race, especially after the first obstacle, and there are many, many more climbs to go.
Well, Lance Armstrong, as we see him racing along there, trying to be a domestique at this particular point and help out one of his teammates. You pointed out Ekimov as a guy who could probably pull it off, but you know, he's got to be looking at Vinokurov out in front, and he's gone through that tough Tour de France, and Lance is probably saying he ain't going to last. And you predicted that already.
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, he's the riders from the former Soviet bloc, Ekimov, Vinokurov. These are tough guys, and I'm not saying they're tougher than Armstrong by any means, but they have this real sort of soldier-like work ethic. And they show up. They race in February. They race in March. They race in July. They race in September. And they just go, and they go. A rider like Ekimov, he's going on 40. He's stronger than he's ever been. And there's something about him, maybe because they came from tougher economic conditions, but they just don't have any psychological issues. They just show up for work every day. They don't cause any troubles, and they pedal like mad.
All right, the race is down Broadway, now headed down Polk Street. They're getting a little breather, racing downhill, but we've got a race. Lance Armstrong among the leaders, and of course, the challengers are there also. We expect exciting finish as we continue our coverage of the T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software. Stay with us, we'll be right back. T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software, and we see a leader, a breakout already, John Eustace, as he's headed down Union Street after that Taylor Street climb.
Went up Taylor Street. As we saw before, the field had actually split up on Taylor Street, on Fillmore Street before, but we look at Chris Weary, a rider from the Navigator cycling team who was sidelined earlier this year with a parasite. He's come back to form, and this is a real chance for him to save his season from illness and do a good performance here today, Jessica, and he's trying to do just that by gobbling up those Webcor King of the Mountain points and staying at the front of the race and looking to see if his efforts can help create a breakaway. Riders coming up behind him and counterattacks, high speed. We'll have to see what happens. These are the early blows, like the early hits in a boxing match. They don't necessarily knock the riders out, but they weaken them little by little by little, and that's what's going on now.
And they take their toll. When you come to as the final rounds or the final stages of this race, we'll see who's able to survive as they make the turn now, headed from Union Street, headed up Columbus, and they'll be headed then down Broadway as the peloton is trying to catch up with those front runners.
Chris Weary is a very strong climber, so he's someone that you are going to see at the front every lap, trying to make these climbs as difficult as possible and just really splinter the groove.
It doesn't look like they're too far back, but it is quite an effort that Chris Weary is putting out himself. That's going to take its toll.
It's a good move. It's a very strong team. There's Weary looking around behind him to see what sort of gap he might have opened up, what sort of damage has been done. Behind him, number 122, that's the rider from the Jittery Joe's coffee team, Cesar Grajales, a rider who was very active in last year's race, a Colombian rider racing for the coffee-sponsored Jittery Joe's team. Grajales, a climber, like all the Colombians. They go uphill better than probably anybody else in the world. And he was very active last year in the breakaway, and this looks to be a race that smiles on him in terms of being able to escape early. And my goodness, they do have a gap.
Yeah.
Query and Grajales away. They look to have about 20, 30 seconds already. Great move. Scooping up those points and opening up some time on the field. So Grajales, again, in front in this race.
And what really happens now is that these two teams can relax in the field. They're trying to set their own riders up. The other teams have the onus of chasing, and right here, Lance Armstrong at the front of the field.
Talking with an excellent professional, Rolf Aldag, one of the stalwart professionals of the big man, a 6'6" cyclist, a German, who has helped so many Tour de France stage wins, Jersey competition winners, and actually Tour de France winners. Aldag, a great professional, talking with another great professional, Lance Armstrong, in front of the race. Two men, not in any particular hurry. They know it's a long way to go. It's the end of a long season, and much racing still to go.
Is he asking him, how you feeling, Lance? You ready to roll? Is everything all right?
How do you like San Francisco? How do you like my country?
Hey, it's a beautiful view, huh?
Professionals talking together, comrades from the Tour de France.
All right, we see our two leaders there just now coming across the start-finish line to make the first complete lap of the big lap, but they've got 7 more times. They've got to go up the Fillmore Street Hill and the Taylor Street Hill. Of course, they have to go up that 7 more plus another 4 on those mini 4 loops that will end this race, that 20-mile finale.
What's happened in past years is Armstrong has let a breakaway establish itself. He's let 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 riders get away on purpose and let them get away up the road 1-2 minutes. And then when he's decided they've established, he's put his team to the front and gone like mad, racing the team to the front, launching his teammates, or himself in the case of last year, from the field up to the breakaway. So as Query and Grajales look around, see what their gap is, put their heads down and pedal forward. We'll have to see what kind of tactical maneuvers Armstrong and the U.S. Postal Service team have in store for the field and us, the viewers, commentators today.
Of course, 2 years ago we saw Lance Armstrong act as the domestique, and he set up his teammate George Hincapie when Hincapie wanted here with a great race at the final climb on Taylor to pull away from the pack. And here's the pack now coming across the start-finish line.
All the riders on U.S. Postal Service give so much to Lance at the Tour de France. They sacrifice any of their results to get Lance Armstrong across the line. And to be honest with you, that's the only way you can win the Tour de France. So at an event like this, Lance tries to give back to the people, the riders that have given so unselfishly to them during the season.
Well, they better watch out. Chris Weary trying to pull away from everybody. Maybe he can hold on. I mean, he is a true professional.
Got about half a minute on the field. Query and Grajales, really like this Colombian. He's very gritty, tough guy. And so we want to certainly see him in the action all through today. And Weary, two good men in this breakaway, Jessica, and they're not nobody, that's for sure.
Okay, this race is headed up Broadway. They're going to go through North Beach, but you know what's ahead of them? The Fillmore Street Hill. We've got a lot of fans and spectators there, but we have our own Stacy Hendler there at the Fillmore Street Hill. Stacy.
Okay, I'm here with Ben Capron of Specialized Bike Company. You have a couple of bikes in this race today.
Yeah, we do. We're sponsoring Mario Cipollini's team, the world champion Domino Vacenza squad.
This is a sample of the bikes that these extraordinary riders are riding. And by the way, I have to say that coming up this Fillmore Hill was absolutely breathtaking. And how does this kind of bike play in a climb like that?
Well, this is the new Specialized Tarmac, a bike that we're racing this year, and designed to be lightweight, efficient, as well as have a very resilient ride, all of which are characteristics that anyone can enjoy when they go to their neighborhood bike shop and buy a Specialized.
When you talk about lightweight, you said it weighs about 15 pounds?
That's right. That's the legal limit, is 15 pounds.
Even I can lift this with just a few fingers, as you can see. That's absolutely amazing. Now, when you have a bike like this, I mean, give us an example of what a bike like this costs.
Well, the bikes that they're racing can be $7,000. The top version like this in retail is going to be around $5,000. And then you can buy bikes at $300 that still incorporate what we've learned at Specialized from doing these race bikes.
When you have a racer that comes to you and says, I want a bike for my race, what kinds of things do you maybe build bikes specifically for some of those races?
Well, obviously, when you have a hill like this, lightweight is great because you're carrying less mass up the hill. At Specialized, we also really try to make the bike as efficient as possible, which means turning every bit of power the rider puts into the pedals into forward motion.
Okay, awesome. Ben Capron with Specialized Bikes. You do have some great bikes in the race today. That's this is what they're riding. It's absolutely breathtaking, as I said. It's just amazing to see. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Stacy. We're back at Broadcast Central for the race. That are our two leaders as they have the breakaway. They're out in charge. They've gone through North Beach. They're now headed down Powell Street. They're trying to pull away from the peloton.
Now, Grajales from Colombia was third in the King of the Mountain competition last year. So, again, he is obviously out there chasing what are now the Webcore-sponsored King of the Mountain classifications. Look for him to try to stay out in front as long as he can to scoop up as many of those points in the race as he possibly can early on. He saw an opportunity. He saw the chance to go away with a workhorse like Wary. And you've got to admire his pluck and his grit and of the two men to escape this early in such a high-level, prestigious race.
Well, they're rolling down Bay Street. They're going to take a right on Columbus and head toward Fisherman's Wharf and then go right up on Beach Street and then head back up Polk Street and then, of course, down Bay as they head down toward Fort Mason, the Marina, and the Presidio.
Now, an interesting note about the Jittery Joe's coffee team is they are sponsored by direct coffee sales. So when the team comes to a place like San Francisco, they set up a booth and they sell coffee, and that's how they make their salaries. It's a very entrepreneurial bicycle racing team mode as they and so far they've been doing very well with it. The team's got a bigger budget than it has in year past, and cycling has proven a wonderful vehicle to deliver the message of that coffee company.
That's amazing.
You know, it's so great to see Chris Weary up there again, because as you said earlier, struggled with parasites. Last year, his father passed away, so another struggle. It's just great to see him up at the front, riding for the Navigators in a great event like this.
All right, they're battling at the front of the pack, but we've got somebody at the start line with our own Larry Beal. Let's go to Larry, and then we'll come back to the riders. Larry.
Hey, Martin. I've got ABC 7's own queen of cycling, Sandhya Patel, our meteorologist. And, Sandy, let's talk about the weather a little bit, just overall conditions here for this race.
Right now, the temperature is in the low 60s here in San Francisco, believe it or not, and it is going to be much cooler compared to yesterday. Yesterday, San Francisco had a high temperature of 94 degrees. Not today, Larry. It's going to be about 76 degrees, so ideal conditions for the cyclists. If you look behind me out towards Telegraph Hill, Coit Towers sitting under the fog, we've got fog around Fillmore Street, the tough climb. They need the fog there, let me tell you. The winds have switched around. They're going to be coming off of the ocean, which of course is a cooler wind, and they need that as well because it would be unbelievable if it was as hot as yesterday. They would be dehydrated, need lots of water, so ideal conditions for the cyclists today.
Yeah. Spencer Christian gave me a weather word, so it sounds like I knew what I was talking about. But the microclimates that the Bay Area is known for, you have varying conditions all over the place that you alluded to a little bit with the fog. But how much does it really vary?
It really does vary by a couple of degrees temperature-wise. But if you look, you know, right near the Embarcadero, we've got sunshine right now. Right near the Bay Bridge. But if you go out towards the Presidio, for example, it tends to get breezy and it's foggier. It is cooler. If you also go out towards the Fisherman's Wharf area, we are talking about cooler conditions there and a lot more fog. So maybe it's patchy here, but more fog out there, and that's going to help those folks there that are cycling through the area right now.
Yeah, if you're cycling for 4 hours, you want as much fog as possible.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of cycling, you completed a race, 38 miles.
I sure did. It was about 4 years ago. I don't know how I did it. I really don't know how I did it. You know, it really was a mental challenge. It was one of those things, you know, you run a marathon. I wanted to do this race, so I told myself I'm going to do it. It's mind over matter. I was eating at every stop, every 10 miles. Eating. It was Thanksgiving for me. What can I say? I had to eat. I had to replenish myself and lots of water. Believe it or not, I completed the race.
Awesome, awesome. Well, next year you can be in the race.
All right.
Martin, you too. Come on now.
All right, Sandy and Larry, thanks a lot. Hey, joining the two racers up front is Gord Frazier. He's joined Cesar Grajales and Chris Weary up front as the racers now are rolling down Bay Street and on Beach Street, headed toward the Marina. We're going to take a break, and we've got a three-man breakaway, but hey, Lance Armstrong and the U.S. Postal Team is lurking in the pack. We'll be right back to T-Mobile International, presented by BMC Software. Welcome back. You are live, the T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software, and that is our lead group, the three-man pack that broke away. 3 men, and as you pointed out, John Yusuf, that it was very fortunate that Gord Fraser joined what was a 2-man breakaway.
Well, Gord Fraser, a Canadian, is one of the most winning bicycle racers in the history of North America. He's a sprinter, but he's also a very strong rider. Now, 3 riders in an early breakaway is much better than 2. It'd be much better for everyone if there were 5 or 6 or 8 riders. But with a strong man like Fraser, who is not necessarily a hill climber, he is someone who has got who really wants to help this breakaway stay away to get some time so that he can make it over the hills and, who knows, make it to the finish of the race. So
that is a beautiful shot, because I got to point out that is our wonderful Palace of Fine Arts, one of the great architectural structures here in San Francisco. What a great shot to see it. And as you say, they're helping each other. They're taking turns, huh?
They're helping each other. And Jesse, you know, Fraser isn't a climber, but he's certainly a strong guy.
Oh, unbelievably fast. Just a blazing sprint. For that reason, I really don't know if this course favors him per se, but now we have 3 different teams represented in the breakaway. That means there are 3 teams back in the chase that aren't helping.
And that puts the pressure on the U.S. Postal Service, the big teams like T-Mobile, and rather Team Telecom, as they're known in Europe, the Postal Service team, Seiko. So we'll have to see. Who's sitting prettiest here so far are the Navigators with Query, because they've got some big guns back there.
Okay, that's the pack. Of course, the 3 leaders, we got Chris Weary, he's with Navigator, we got Cesar Grajales, and then this is the overall standings, John, of the Pro Cycling Tour, and this is up for grabs. Who's going to be the champion in this race?
Well, we're going to see the Pro Tour. Julian Dean from the CSC Tour de France team is leading the professional tour. He's not here today. Uros Mort is here today with second place, 94 points. Third place, Zanini, not here, but 4th and 5th, Mark McCormick and Rapinski are here. Now, if Mern gets 3rd in this race, he can score 40 points. He can win the overall Pro Cycling Tour. Again, a series of 5 races across the country, trying to be the defender, becoming the definitive Pro Cycling Tour, similar to the PGA in golf as well. Mark McCormick of the Saturntine and Rapinski tied both at 76 points each. If either of them gets 2nd place, they can catapult themselves into the lead in this Pro Tour standing. So the race within the race will be Moore, McCormick, Rapinski, and a man who was not on the overall standings, David Klinger of the Prime Alliance team, all of them trying to get in the top 3 of this race and claim the $20,000 prize for the professional tour standings. But right now, these 3 men are trying to prevent the aforementioned riders from finishing in the top 3. Gord Fraser, Cesar Grajales, and Chris Weary on a breakaway ahead of the field.
And as you can see, they seem to be working very well together. That is so key for a breakaway to stay up ahead. They only benefit if each one takes equal pills, does their amount of work, and that's how they'll be able to stay up front. But there's an 11 chasers right behind, and they are bearing down on this 3-rider breakaway.
And I suspect that it is Lance Armstrong and the U.S. Postal Team as a group with those chasers, because they do want to stay in contact as they roll now, coming back away from Fort Mason and headed now toward Greenwich Street. When they turn down Greenwich Street, they will, of course, be looking ahead to the Fillmore Street climb once again.
Shot of the field, again, looking relaxed. Many of the riders realizing there's a long way to go, but with the twists and turns and severity of the climbs of this race course, if a rider in contention should not really think about riding in the second half, the back third of this bicycle race. If you want to be someone that can win this race, you better darn well keep yourself in the top third of the race, fight for position, go through the psychological, physical efforts of staying up in the front of this race, because the thing can split in a millisecond.
And there's your leaders. And let's take a look now. Here's the King of the Mountain standings with another 7 shots going up the Fillmore Street Hill. And of course, we've got 11 more shots going up Taylor Street Hill. Here's your leaders, Chris Weary, Cesar Grajales, of course, as they exchange the lead, and joining them is Gord Fraser.
At the back, you can see Gord Fraser has a lot of netting on his knee. This looks like these are the past indications of a crash, probably. What happens with the cyclists is, in order so they have a good range of motion, they put the pads on, and then they also have netting. So it really looks like Gord Fraser had a crash.
Okay, here's a key moment, a slightly key moment in this race. This is the second climb up the Fillmore Street. Now, we saw in the overall standings so far that Chris Wherry was second in the King of the Mountain, the Webcor sponsored King of the Mountain standings. So Wherry in a position to take over the lead of that competition based on his climb up this hill. We'll see how he does. Grajales, all three of these men will score points. But very interesting to see what Wherry does, as he's already got points in his pocket. So he wants to certainly win, or at least get second in this hill climb, this time up the Fillmore Street climb, and pop himself into the lead of that competition so far.
When you go up a hill, all bets off. Everybody goes for themselves. It's not that teamwork thing. They're just all trying to get to the top of the hill first, and then they regroup and start the teamwork again.
Especially on this hill. There's nothing like it. They say 18%. Some people say it's 22%. I do know that the riders have special gears they only use once a year. A 38 in the front for you tech heads out there, with a 27 in the back. That's a very, very small gear. This Grajales is the Colombian. Look at him go. Colombians climb. Really like this rider.
He's looking very strong and fit at this point in the race. Now as he makes that turn and heads down Broadway, and what a relief, because we're talking about a little downhill stretch.
Going for those points. Wherry still gets second. I don't have the calculations in front of me, but I think he should be in the lead right now. Wherry, with Grajales challenging, depending on how long this breakaway stays out in front and how the rest of the climbs go. But Jesse, this breakaway now should really put their heads down, and they all got something to win, and they've all got something to pedal for, and they should do it and try to stay together and stay away as long as they can.
So Grajales was basically looking back and asking for help. Come on, guys, let's go. Let's work together.
Well, really, right now, Grajales, he wanted points. He went to the front, he wanted to go up the climb hard, but he needs these other two riders. It's not going to benefit him to get ahead, so at this point he's going to wait and work together with them.
Absolutely. Well, they're headed down Broadway, and then they will go down Polk Street, make a left turn, and head back toward the beach and toward the bay. The rest of the pack, boy, they've got to stay within striking distance, as you've been pointing out, John. It's not a race where you can let a group just get totally out of hand.
No, a strong peloton like this could even let these riders in front, these three riders in front gain 5, 6, 7 minutes and still run them down at the end. That's sort of a classic scenario in a professional race, because three men can go, they can stay out there, they can ride at 24, 25 miles an hour. But when a big professional peloton really puts it down and all the big teams go to the front, they go ripping down the road at 35, 37 miles an hour. Wow. And they can eat up the time like you can't believe.
Yeah, because you would think, and that gives you a false sense, they, of course, doing a lot more work than this group in the big peloton like this.
And what they'll try to do is get that 5, 7, 8 minutes lead. If they could possibly open up that kind of gap, they would have a chance to make it to the finish. If they stay within a minute, 2 minutes like that, the best they can hope for is to gobble up those Webcor King of the Mountain points and maybe gain enough, stay out long enough, and maybe win that competition overall.
We saw a lot of the U.S. Postal Service team members solidly up into the head of that peloton right there. Of course, Lance Armstrong among them. And here's your three leaders at the front working together, trying to keep it together. And they're getting caught. Somebody's reeling them in.
Two riders have bridged the gap, Jesse.
Two riders have bridged the gap, and you can also see beyond them the field or a group of chasers, and they're only 18 seconds back. So these riders, like I said earlier, they have the chasers really bearing down on them.
And again, the Fillmore Street, the Taylor Street climbs. Lance Armstrong in our picture there, doing all sorts of damage, opening up the field, opening up these gaps on these breakaways. Armstrong on the descent with that picture-perfect position of his, that magnificent fast-pedaling style that has changed the face of professional cycling. Armstrong, he has a completely different technique, one that hasn't been seen in 20 years, pedaling much smaller, much faster gears, something that other riders in the professional racing world are trying to adopt, and not as successfully as he has by any means.
Well, he has not only changed the face of the racers themselves, but the spectators. We're talking a quantum leap of popularity of cycling in America. When he started this run of championships with Tour de France in 1998, it There's 54 million participating in cycling in America. Now they estimate over 104 million. You got to point a lot of that to Lance Armstrong. That's quite the group that's out front now.
Now that's what they could have hoped for. They wanted some reinforcements to launch themselves off the last climb up Fillmore and gobble up to them. Now you have a big breakaway that has a chance of making it. And Jessica, there's a rider in pink, a big man named Rolf Aldag, one of the most experienced professionals in the world of cycling, a man who is strong.
And earlier, when Aldag had come up, you had seen Chris Weary kind of tap him. Chris Weary was happy to see this rider join this breakaway. It just gives them more force, more power.
So what happened in the race? The breakaway slightly getting caught. A lot of fighting behind in the field on the Fillmore Street climb. Aldag and one other whose number we don't quite have yet bridged the gap to the breakaway. Now the breakaway is stronger, as we say, and the breakaway should, in theory, depending on the chase from behind, start to pull away from the field again. Always fluctuations in the world of professional cycling like this.
We're obviously concerned about Lance Armstrong and the U.S. Postal Team. We have Lorenzo LePage. He is the team director of the U.S. Postal Team. We can talk to him now. Lorenzo, how is the U.S. Postal Team sitting at this time? Are you happy?
Yeah, we have 2 guys in the breakaway, so it's very important so the team don't have to work behind. And I think on this kind of course, it's not so easy to go away from soon in the race, because it's a long race, it's hard. There are a lot of corners, so that means a lot of accelerations, and it's not easy to start working together with 10 guys in the front. So I think they will come back at the end of the race, the leaders, and then we have a good chance with our riders in the peloton.
Lorenzo's John Eustace. We don't have the numbers yet. Who are your 2 riders in the front?
We have Robbie Ventura and Mikhailov in the front. So Robbie is a guy who will be good, like I think, till after 100 kilometers. And Mikhailov is a strong guy, so it's good we have those 2 boys there in the front, so the team don't have to spend too much power behind and energy behind.
All right, well, the strategy is working. You're in position. And Lance Armstrong, how is Lance feeling at this time?
Lance feels good, so also Ekimov is very good for this moment. And we're just waiting till half race to decide who from both is feeling the best.
Okay, Lorenzo LePage, team director of the U.S. Postal Service team, thank you very much, and we're going to check back with you later. Thanks a lot, Lorenzo.
Okay, thank you.
I don't see any postal riders in the breakaway, Jessica.
I think possibly they're in the chase group that's right behind, because I agree with you, John. I don't see any signs of Postal Service in that front group.
So maybe Lorenzo not quite getting proper radio information. Or again, maybe there's someone in between who we haven't caught yet. But for now, our breakaway group in very good condition. And this is setting up to be a spectacular race. And Aldag, that's a real worry for the riders in the field, I would think. Because this is a guy that's ridden so many Tour de France's, has led out sprints, has led out in the mountains, has won big races himself. That's a professional's professional. And he's flying on this course today. And his sponsor is the overall sponsor of this race, so he's hyper motivated to do well.
He wants to show well because the guys are here. As they head down now toward the Embarcadero, as they will go back across on the other side of the start-finish line and make that mini loop, and then come back around for the 3rd of the big laps around this race.
And as LePage had noted earlier, this is a long race, though. I mean, this is over 100 miles, so it's going to be tough to stay out there, but they're putting in a strong effort early on.
And we saw that first group, and there is no U.S. Postal Service team members in that first group, but about 15, 20, 30, maybe even 40 seconds behind, we're waiting for the pack to come across.
Here comes a smaller group. This must have been what he was talking about. As you say, about 40 seconds behind. So again, the breakaway did start to pull out. And there we have a Postal Service, a Prime Alliance rider, Domino Vacancies. Okay, now this race is really shaping up into a good fight. This is terrific.
And the chasers aren't really working well together. That's going to hurt them. You can see they're attacking one another. They're trying to get organized.
Now here's the big peloton right there. And we see a couple of riders that are pulling out front, but behind them is the big peloton of the big pack of riders who are really doing less work. Now these guys are really working hard.
The tough race, Postal Service riders,
they're trying to get up. They're trying to pull up.
Trying to get up there. This race is completely split up already. This is bits and pieces are coming by our broadcast booth. I don't know what happened that last time up Taylor Street climb, but it must have been real painful because this race is blown into bits on the second of these big laps. Unbelievable.
The U.S. Postal team members there racing along, and they're trying to pull up to that second group, and then they can reel in. Here's the leaders, the first group, a group of 5 riders, and 2 of them on one team member there, so one team together so they can work together.
Good eyes, good eyes. We've got 2 riders from the HealthNet team, a West Coast-based team. We'll have to get the number of the number 2. So you have a telecom rider, Tour de France rider, Wolf Alldog. You have Gord Fraser, one other HealthNet rider, Grajales from the Jittery Joe's team. And Chris Weary, the man who helped start this entire breakaway off, our leader in the Webcor King of the Mountain points so far, 47 points. No, number 47, Grajales, Cesar Alldog. Oh, that's number 196 from the HealthNet team. An American Loxmo. The rider will have to do some research to find. He's a big man, that much I can tell you.
And now Gord Fraser is a happy man because there's always strength in numbers. So now you see that HealthNet has 2 out of these 5 riders.
And once this is making Grajales and Hueri look very clever, because what they did is they broke away early in the race. Too early, Manny thought, but they avoided all the fighting behind them. And now, as the remnants of the war that happened behind them makes their way up to them, they find themselves in perfect position.
Okay, the U.S. Postal Service team has got 2 members in the group trying to catch up with that lead group, so they're trying to work and to make this an even closer race. We have got dynamite action. That is the front group as the T-Mobile International, presented by BMC Software, will continue. We're going to take a break, but stay with us. This race is blown apart. This is our group out front. 5 racers have broken away from the main pack. In fact, they're so far ahead of the main pack, there's a group of 3 or 4 races in between them. Chris Weary of the Navigator team and Cesar Grajales. Gord Fraser, along with his teammate Luxmore, is there. So he's represented. HealthNet is represented by 2 riders in this pack.
As we take a look at our leaders in this T-Mobile International, as you say, we have 5 riders out in front here. We have Alldog, the big Tour de France rider, Grajales, Hueri from Navigators, who is leading our Webcor King of the Mountains competition. Now, these riders have 40 seconds on a chase group, which includes one of the Postal Service riders, Robbie Ventura, and then they're more than 1:20 up on the chasing peloton. So they have played their cards to perfection so far in this race, gone early, avoided a lot of the fighting behind on the Fillmore and Taylor Street climbs, and now they are smoothly racing towards an ever-expanding lead in this event.
Yeah, they're going up Beach Street at this point, and Fisherman's Wharf right off to the right. They're going to make a turn and go up Polk Street and then head by Galileo High School. We'll see a lot of sights that we're all familiar with.
And what's so key, as John said earlier, is that they're riding smoothly this breakaway. They're working very well together, and that is key to success in a breakaway.
Now we see 2 members of the U.S. Postal team, and is that with the main peloton, or is that with the group that's trying to pull them down?
That's the main field as far as we can tell right here. That's Lance Armstrong sitting in there in the new special edition gray Postal Service jerseys. We've got to find out where Ekimov is. Now, the team director seems to be happy with the situation. He's not worried about these breakaways gaining time on the field because he feels that they will tire, that someone like Lance Armstrong and the other members, and there's Ekimov in our picture right there, can sit calmly in the field.
And not expend energy and use the field itself to help catapult them along.
I misidentified. That's Pavel Podnos, the big Czech who helped Armstrong in this year's Tour de France.
Ekimov is in that group. There's 3 of them there, as you see.
And as you see, all the riders that we've tried to identify as potential winners, they're all back in this field.
They're
letting,
smart ones.
That's right. They're letting their teammates make this race hard. They're letting them suffer early on so that they're ready and they're fresh when the fireworks start going off.
Well, the guys from HealthNet, they are making a big gamble, it looks like, early on in the race, John. By being out in this front group, they've got 2 of them. They're both going to expend a lot of energy.
Well, if you're a team like HealthNet, good team, good domestic team, you've got to take these chances where you can find them. Now, what are they gaining from this? They're out in front. They're getting their sponsor all over the television. They are avoiding, physically, the great battles that are bound to happen when the field decides, okay, we're really going to hit it, we're going to race. So when someone like an Ekimov or a Simoni or any of these riders really explode up these climbs, someone like Gord Fraser could never, ever follow. But by now, by getting out early, by getting a lead early, he can climb these Taylor Street and Fillmore Street climbs at his own pace, which is his own pace being much slower than that of a Lance Armstrong or somebody, and maybe, hopefully, get some distance and make it to the finish if things work out.
We see the main peloton now as they're rolling along Bay Street. And of course, this is the group that is out front. They're going around the Marina Boulevard, going down with the San Francisco. The St. Francis Yacht Club is up ahead of them off to the right. Golden Gate Yacht Club. By the way, they've got big boat races out there on the harbor this weekend. It's amazing.
And the advantage of being in these breakaways also is that when possibly the fireworks start going off and teams start attacking from behind, they're in such a great position to get on one of these trains and to ride it to the finish as well.
Well, we finished the first quarter of this race, 28 miles. We got 108 miles total, so this is about 1/4 of the race. And this group of 5, they are setting the pace. They're paying the price. We wonder if they're going to be able to keep it up.
Got a strong collection, especially we keep talking about him. T-Mobile's Rolf Aldag. He's a guy that can do it all. He can climb, he can sprint, he's a good track rider. He's the most dangerous man in that breakaway. As you look at our field chasing behind, not roaring along at a high speed. You've got a rider from the Colavita Bola team in front, not one of the big teams, one of the teams that have missed the breakaway, doing what they can to keep this race under control. It would be better for that team to have had someone in that breakaway, but they're doing what they can. And also missing from the front teams like 7-Eleven, the Italians, Vini Caldirola, Formaggio Pinzolo. They don't have anybody up in front. They should be concerned about this. Seiko, the big Giro d'Italia winning team. As we look at Vinokurov back in the field there in the pink, he's happy because Aldag's in front. He has nothing to do but sit in the field and let the others chase.
Yeah, we see the main peloton now. They've pulled away from Fisherman's Wharf. They're going up. At that point, they're going up Polk Street. In fact, that's Galileo High School. High School of O.J. Simpson right there off to their right as they head up the hill. We're going to check in right now at the base of the Fillmore Street Hill is our Stacy Henley as they make the turn by Galileo High School. Stacy. All right, we're having some problems with her audio. She too high up. We need to put her on Sky 7 chopper, but that is the Fillmore Street Hill as she's looking down. And here is the main group of 5 riders who are setting the pace as we're about 1/4 of the way finished, past the 28-mile point in this 108-mile T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software.
It's really interesting about the field. We saw that they didn't look like they were chasing hard, and that really means one of 2 things. Either the break is not, or the group is not very concerned with this breakaway, or the teams that are representing this breakaway are doing a very good job in the field of controlling it.
Well, there's also some other information. The field, the team from Lance Armstrong, the field that Lance Armstrong is in, rather, is 2 minutes and 50 seconds behind, almost 3 minutes behind this breakaway group. So they're going to have to either really explode into action or maybe give up on the idea of this bike race, because one of the things that's causing them to be so slow, so complacent about the race so far is the fact that sandwiched in between our shot of this field and our leaders is a group that are only a minute 5 behind the breakaway, and that includes Tim Johnson from the Saturn team and Trent Klausner from the Saturn team. So the Saturn team, one of the big favorites of this bike race, happy with the situation. Mikhailov from the U.S. Postal Service team, the strong Russian is sandwiched in between in that group as well. Huntermark, strong German, who his team director Brian Holm pegged as one of the big favorites of this race, is in there as well, a teammate of the pink-clad Rolf Aldag. So Aldag knows that a teammate's coming up from behind. And number 35, Davide Garbelli from the Domina Vacanzi, your Zebra team. There and there, Italians represented. Matt DiCanio, number 55. From the Prime Alliance team, Zampieri, number 64, another Italian rider from the Vini Caldirola team, and then Chad Hartley, number 123, a rider from the Jittery Joe's Coffee team. So Jittery Joe's doing a great race here. Good to see the small teams doing well.
Now that's in the second group, trying to catch this main group right now that we're looking at the leaders with HealthNet, with 2 members of their team in this lead group as they head down Mason Street and Fort Mason area, and they're going to be making a left turn up Marshall and then heading back, and of course confronting them will be that arduous Fillmore Street Hill. They're just seconds and actually minutes away from that attack.
So all the major teams between this breakaway and the chase are represented at this point. And as John said, that might be a reason for the field's complacency.
As they wait for maybe that attack group to pull in this, the main group, as we see them out front right now, taking turns on the lead. Chris Weary, Cesar Garhalis, Gord Frazier of HealthNet, Aldous, and Luxmo, who is also a HealthNet member. And that is Garhalis right there, Cesar, the Colombian, as you pointed out, a guy that you like, in the lead at this particular point.
One thing to consider about the field is that one team has a responsibility. One of the big teams, we say that certain big teams have a responsibility of the race. They have a responsibility to take control of the race. The Seiko team, the team that won the Tour of Italy, not represented in the front group, not represented in the second group. In theory, they're the team that should go to the front and try and close all this down. They're not doing it. They're dropping the responsibilities for this bike race, and it should be a bit of a disappointment to the organizers for them to have dropped their arms so quickly.
Well, HealthNet it seems to be picking up a little bit of the slack to help out a little bit, because I guess this is the team that it's kind of a surprising the way they're pulling it out.
Well, the HealthNet team is a small budget domestic team that has cobbled together a budget and a good set of riders and have won a surprising amount of races this year. And the word on the street is that they're going to be combining with another team for next year to make a bigger, more powerful squad. And so the riders in the team have a lot of morale. They believe in the future. They're good riders. Gord Frazier, terrific rider. And they're riding like a team that's got a good, strong future in the front. This field, on the other hand, is looking pretty defeated.
Okay, well, they're making a statement right now, and maybe they can continue to make a statement as we continue coverage. We're going to go now to Stacy Hendler. We've got her all set up, and she's high up in the air at the Fillmore Street Hill. Hi, Stacy.
Buddy. We are, Martin, thanks a lot. Yeah, we have a great party going on up here, and we have Bill with me, who is an avid cycling fan. What is it like to be able to watch the race from this perspective?
Well, this is as good as it gets in North America. Until about 3 years ago, you had to go to Europe to see anything like this.
Yeah, you're up on the roof, and it's actually Jim's home that we're on the roof. John, on the, whose home we're on the roof of, and to do this, lean in just a little bit, we can see the race.
It's great to have Channel 7 here with us. This is the perfect place to watch it. Very exciting race. Great day.
Thanks so much. So this is just one of the more unusual places where they're enjoying this race. You can see down the hill, it's packed 10 deep on each side of the street. And of course, this is one of the best vantage points as the racers come up the hill. Back to you, Martin.
Okay, Stacy Hendler at the top of the Fillmore Street Hill as she's looking back. This is our lead group of 5 racers who are out front of this race as we continue to roll. This, the T-Mobile International, presented by BMC Software, and they are now going up the Taylor Street Hill, the second of the big hills that they have to climb.
San Francisco is really representing USA cycling so well, because it's so nice that these European riders, many that have possibly not raced here, to come here and see that there's 10 people deep on the climbs, the crowds. It's just really amazing that San Francisco has really brought together such a phenomenal event.
One of the things about professional bicycle racing in general, with big road races, is that, as has been said before, the city, the venue, is the stadium. And to find a much more beautiful stadium than San Francisco,
it's impossible.
Impossible.
Yeah, you can't do it. This is it.
It is magnificent as Wherry, go back to the action, leads up the hill. Wherry trying to gobble up those Webcor King of the Mountain points. He's in the lead so far and looking to score more. The Grajales,
there you go. Grajales Cesar trying to make it back-to-back. He won the King of the Mountain, Webcor King of the Mountain on the Fillmore Street Hill.
We'll have to see what the point standings are after this.
I mean, you can really tell that this is what Grajales is looking for. He wants these points on these Webcor KOM points. He is focusing on it every single climb, getting to the front and gathering as many points as possible.
He goes. Look at him go. Good rider.
Going all the way up, powering his way up to the top of the Taylor Street Hill, and he's got the good thing to look forward to is that left turn as he will go down Union Street. And Grajales is mad. He is going to pull it off.
Good climber, scooped up those points, eating into Wherry's lead. Wherry should be worried right now. He might have to rethink his tactics in this race so far, because in the beginning he was riding for himself to try to get these points. With a rider like Grajales, don't know if he can do it.
All right, Cesar Grajales looking now for some help from the other 4 members of the lead pack, but he's out front of this, the T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software. We'll be right back, so stay with us as our coverage continues. that is trying to steal this race and pull it away for themselves. Chris Weary among them, Cesar Grajales, Gord Fraser, Aldous, and Gord Fraser's teammate on the Health Net, Loxmo. Let's make a quick, in case a lot of our viewers are just joining us, we're going to take a quick canon summary, race summary. If we look at what's happened so far in this international race, a men's field of 20 teams started, 137 total riders, and of course, the main figure, the leader of the U.S. Postal Service team, 5-time defending Tour de France winner, Lance Armstrong is in the field, riding solidly and strongly at this point. And before, earlier today, we had a women's race, and that was won by the wonderkin of women's racing, 20-year-old from Great Britain, Nicole Cook. She is the T-Mobile International Women's Champion. Outstanding time, 2 hours, 11 minutes, and 17 seconds. That's about 25 miles an hour average. Here's our leaders right now. They're rolling along, getting ready to make an attack. They're going up the hill at the Cork Street this time. They got a minute 40 lead over that second group, and an even bigger lead than the main peloton.
The main field about 3 minutes behind our group of leaders here. 5 men who have escaped, a couple of them right early in the bicycle race, Grajales and Weary notably, joined later in the race by Aldag and the second Health Net rider, who was a very strong junior rider, one of the dominant junior riders in the country for many years. Jason Loxmo, who apparently dropped out of the sport for a while, has come back and is showing just who he is and why he was such a great junior by being in the front of that breakaway. Weary and Grajales fighting it out for the Webcor King of the Mountain points, and our chase group, including Saturn riders, about a minute 40 behind is the chase group, and 2 minutes 50 seconds behind, as I look at our graphic, is the main field here in our picture. All the main teams in the main field represented in the front, with the exception of Seiko, who are taking a passive attitude towards this race so far.
You know, John, it doesn't look like the chase group is really working together. That's going to cost them, isn't it?
Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. This is our field. The field seems a bit undecided about what to do so far. Chase group, we haven't had a lot of, mind your definition, we have our breakaway, our chase group, and our field. Not a lot of cameras on our chase group so far. So once we get that, we'll get a better look at what they're doing, what their mentality is. But what is sure is that the front lead, the breakaway group, Jesse, is committed and working very well together.
All right, we're going to go to one of the key points. Will always be one of the focal points of a race like this, and one of the big hills. And at that hill, one big hill is at Taylor Street, is Eric Thomas. Eric and Elizabeth Bermudez. Hey.
Hey, Martin, we're standing here with professional rider Malcolm Elliott, who's been watching the action as the riders come up this hill. Malcolm's come back. You're not in the race this year, but you've been watching these guys. What about this course that impresses you?
It's just the amount of atmosphere, the spectators, and just the sheer severity of the climb. It's each lap, you're using all the gears, just shifting all the time, and it's just going to be survival of the fittest. I think it's still very early, but we're already seeing some very, very tired legs.
How do you prepare for a race like this?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of races all through the season, which is for a professional cyclist, that's his preparation for the other races he has to go to. And really, other than that, it's just the power. There's you use a lot of strength, a lot of power to climb these hills. They're very severe but short, relatively short. So that's what it's all about, and trying to conserve as much energy as you can for the later stages of the race.
What kind of racer excels at something like this? A sprinter, a climber, both?
Well, I think it's not so much a climber, I would say. This is not really the climber circuit. It's more a power guy who can perhaps sprint as well. Saw that last year. Charles Dion, I mean, a guy with power, who's still got power at the finish. That's the type of guy.
Malcolm Elliott, thank you so much. Malcolm was ridden in the Tour de France, the Tour of Spain, with his insight as to what these guys are going through. Back to you, Martin.
Okay, thank you, Eric Thomas and Elizabeth Bermudez, of course, and there's Lance Armstrong as he's racing along with is that the main peloton that he's still with?
Back with the main field, yes. Ekimov as well in our picture next to Armstrong. Two of our favorites from the race. Armstrong and Ekimov back in the field, 2 minutes 50 seconds in back of our 5 leaders, and about a minute in back of the chase group, who are sandwiched in between the field and the front of the race.
It looks like Lance is trying to push the issue a little bit and bring that peloton along and maybe kind of close that gap. It looks like they're working a little bit harder.
Well, keeping himself in the front, keeping himself out of trouble in the race, staying in the front. But so far, they seem happy, the Postal Service, with what's going on so far in the race. Christian Vandevelde there, Jessica, an old teammate of yours.
You know, I had the inside scoop from Christian Vandevelde's father earlier today. Christian Vandevelde also riding for Postal Service, and he said that Christian has been feeling very, very well. So he might be one of these guys to watch out there as well.
We'll have to see. Vandevelde has been former leader in the young rider competition in the Tour de France. He's been battling physical injuries for the past couple of years. Have kept him from the very top level of the sport, a spot that he really belongs in. So we wish the best for him and wish a stellar performance today in San Francisco from the young man from Illinois originally.
Well, Lance Armstrong and the U.S. Postal Team, of course, the big concern, Lance Armstrong, his physical conditioning came in with 102-degree temperature. He's fighting a flu bug. So as the race goes on and he stays comfortable, that has to be a good sign that maybe Lance will try to make an effort to continue that he is stronger and he's getting fit, his fitness back.
We'll see what happens in the race. Right now, 3 minutes back, it's not looking terrific. He's riding the race. He's honoring his professional duty to show himself in front of the public. But he's Lance Armstrong. He's a great champion. And if they sense that their teammates in front, their Russian teammate Mikolov is faltering, if they sense that it's not going well for the Postal Service team, then look for them to turn on the afterburners and rip that breakaways lead into shreds. And that team can certainly do it.
Yeah.
And the thing about Lance Armstrong, what's so amazing about him is that whenever he's faced with adversity, he just steps it up a couple more notches. And I think that's what makes him just the phenomenal rider he is. I mean, you saw that at the Tour de France. He was dehydrated one day in the mountains, and he really suffered that day. But you know what? He really was able the next day to just come back with some stronger punches and take the lead away.
When you talk about adversity, this may be, I mean, when he really looks back on it, as far as his 5 Tour de France victories, maybe even 6 next year, this may be the toughest one that Lance Armstrong has had to accomplish. I mean, everybody knows that that he, in fact, is getting divorced. That's come out in the media. He had the mechanical problems, the physical problems, and he still was able to manage to win a 5th straight Tour de France championship, overcoming the mental adversary and, of course, all the physical stress.
And it's not just being tough as per se being an athlete. It's just being in Europe. You're traveling every single weekend, every day. I mean, it's just a hard lifestyle period.
Yeah.
You're in a strange country or strange countries as you're traveling throughout Europe. So it really takes its toll. Even some really good American riders have gone to Europe, and they haven't been successful, not because of their abilities physically, but it's just really hard on you mentally as well.
And you're talking about a guy who's got a book coming out. You've got all the demands of being the Tour de France champion. I mean, he can go nowhere without somebody asking something of him.
Well,
amazing.
He's a Tiger Woods level celebrity now, Lance Armstrong. But back to what's made him that level celebrity, it's his fight. I mean, in theory, the man who finished 2nd in the Tour de France this year, Jan Ullrich, is a more talented bike rider, more graceful, flows on the bicycle. And with what happened this year, Armstrong really probably shouldn't have won. But he's got such fight. He is such a fighter. He's such a pretty tough guy that comes out of his guts. And that's what got him the Tour, and that's what got him through cancer, and that's what has made him this champion. He is just a fighter, a true athlete. And he's got that spirit, that burning desire to will more than anyone that certainly is racing on the circuit today, and possibly more than anyone we've ever seen in the sport.
And a great analogy that you were talking to me about earlier, if you have an opportunity to read the book Seabiscuit or to see the movie Seabiscuit, you're talking about that kind of an achievement as far as Lance Armstrong, and has him back and the kind of heart and determination that he has. That's it. Our leaders right now, the 5, the breakaway, Chris Weary, Cesar, and there they are right there, Cesar Grajales, Aldag, Gordon Fraser, they're taking their chance, and of course there's Grajales right there taking his turn in front, and a helpmate teammate of Gordon Frazier looks more. He is also involved.
Frazier's looking to have made a very good move in this race. He's got a teammate there. He's gone on the attack. He's gotten this breakaway. He's ahead of the field. He's avoiding all of the fighting, the high-speed ascensions of the two major climbs in this bicycle race. He can climb them pretty much at his own pace. And if he doesn't get dropped in the climbs, Frazier is certainly someone that can do a 100-mile breakaway with 5 riders. He's certainly got that strength. His weak point would be the climbs, but if he can monitor this break and keep with them, who knows what he can do. But Frazier looking very good in this race. Rolf Alldog as well. Terrific tactical battle shaping up. And as always, the hills of San Francisco separating this race into pieces early on, as always.
And they're going now around Bay Street, down close to Fisherman's Wharf. You can see the end of Powell Street there. The cable cars turn around right there. They're going by that point. Moving on. In fact, there are the cable cars, right? This is our group out front. Off to the right is Fisherman's Wharf and the harbor.
Earlier, we spoke to Malcolm Elliott, and I have to tell you, this is the type of climb that might be good for Gord Frazier because it's a power climb. It's a sprinter's sort of climb.
Okay, there's our leader, Gord Frazier, Health Net. We're making a switch leaders. We're going to take a break. We've got 5 men out front. But hey, this race is long for over. So stay with us as the T-Mobile International continues. Welcome back. We're live now. T-Mobile International, and that's one of our leaders talking to one of his team managers, getting an update, I guess, on where the main peloton is. And that's one of the young fellas who's looking pretty good.
That is Rolf Alldog, the big German, the big workhorse. As we look at our graphic, our breakaway, 1 minute 40 ahead of a chase group. The entire 5 field is 5 minutes 40 seconds back. Now I've got to tell you,
that's a lot, huh?
Too much time. It's over. It's over for them.
You don't, They can't reel it in.
Done. Done.
Interesting. Boy, he's making a call. We got John Houston's making an early call about it's over. It's over.
I don't know if I feel like it's over, but I do know that that field, if they want any chance, they need to move it now and no later.
All right, there's Cesar Grajales right now. He's the leader of this 5 group at this time as they take turns now, trying to keep expanding that lead over the main peloton. Let's go to Stacy Hendler. She's at the bottom or at the Fillmore Street Hill. Hey, Stacy.
I'm sorry, tell me your name.
My name's Ken.
Ken?
Ty.
Ty, okay. You're in it too, so don't turn away.
Hey, Stacy. You're in it now. You're live, girlfriend. Can you hear me?
I'm sorry. Here,
I'm
setting up my riders here. We have some spectators out here who have a particularly interesting story. You are a cyclist and a fan.
That's right. Yeah.
You were just at the Tour de France.
This summer, yeah, in July.
What was that like?
It was an amazing experience. I mean, just to be amongst people that are cycling fans and to see the heroes that you follow all year long. It's a great experience.
You had a great experience here in San Francisco as well, just training here.
Yeah, the last week it's been kind of a who's who. Literally driving my bike up and down the marina and stuff. You pull up at stoplights and you look over and there's Gilberto Simoni or the Team 7-Up guys or Saturn, and of course you jump in with them and kind of act as much as you can like them. I think it's pretty obvious. I'm the odd man out.
How well did you do?
Yeah, as far as everybody knows, I did great. Yeah.
Are we all having a really good time up here? I think this side of the street is probably a little bit better than that side of the street. We'll find out in just a minute. Are you having a good time?
Absolutely having a blast. This is great for San Francisco. It's so much fun. Oh yeah, every day, every day.
When these guys are coming up the hill, what's your feeling? I mean, I'm not a cyclist, and my heart was just jumping. It's breathtaking.
Oh, it's amazing to see just how fast they come up this hill and the look of suffering on their faces. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's so exciting.
Okay, great. So we're out here at Fillmore. Obviously a big party. A lot of people are having a great time, and we'll check back in with you. Martin, back to you.
Okay, Stacy Hendler, thank you very much. And boy, what a party for San Francisco. The greatest riders in the world, probably the most talented field of racers ever in the history of American cycling right here. And here's some of the leaders right now. There's U.S. champion Mark McCormick right now. Is he making a move?
Saturn team, Mark McCormick, U.S. national champion, in the field, 5 minutes 40 seconds back. We were looking for a strong ride out of McCormick today because he had a real chance if he finished in the top 3 of becoming the overall Pro Cycling Tour, the PCT champion. But now, going on 6 minutes as we look at our Beautiful, beautiful scene.
Palace of Fine
What a
Arts.
city this is.
There's
Go to our leaders. 6 minutes ahead of our national champion. His chances to become the Pro Cycling Tour champion seem to be receding very quickly into the distance. But our 5 men in front, Jesse, played it well.
That's true. These riders really took a gamble when they went out so early, but it's looking to fall in their benefit. I mean, I just can't believe that they've been maintaining the cooperation in this breakaway. Like we said, that's so important that they all each take their turns working at the front and they cooperate, and that's what's made this break successful.
Well, they're rolling down Mason Street. Off to the right is, of course, the Bay, and they're going to be going around toward Fort Mason and going through there, and then, of course, looking ahead at that long Greenwich Street stretch, and then once again the climb up the Fillmore Street Hill, where we just saw Stacy, and they're all waiting for him, because all of a sudden they will get that energy, the surge of all the spectators, because the spectators do know the key points in the race and where to line up.
This is a cycling-friendly region, and there's certain regions in the world where bicycle racing is very popular. Lombardy in Italy, Flanders in Belgium, and certainly Northern California is world-renowned for being a home of cycling-friendly fans, aficionados of the sport. And it's an area that it's created many champions in the past. Now, right here, our Saturn team, this is Tim Johnson, Charles Dion, Charles Dion, last year's winner, who's been sidelined with 2 severe crashes this year, nowhere near, showing nowhere near the promise that he showed last year with the victory in this event. Had a tough season and mired back in the field, not looking to improve on that so far this year.
You know, this is a race that has become so prominent that a victory here will catapult you onto the whole scene. And Charles Dion, I think, is a classic example. I mean, last year he was a nobody racing with a very small team, and now he's racing with one of the powerhouses in American cycling. We've got Sandia at the start line, and she's got a very special guest. So let's go talk to Sandia. She's got Bob Stapleton with us. Hey,
That's correct. Hi there, Martin, and hi there, everyone. I do have Mr. Bob Stapleton. He's the Vice Chairman of T-Mobile. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure.
Mr. Stapleton, tell me, what kind of changes have we seen this year?
Well, this event has expanded dramatically. Initially, it was featured a men's race with Lance Armstrong and some of the greatest American riders. This year, it's expanded with the women's field. First year the women have been on this course. Very tough course, maybe the toughest women's race in the world, and it brought an international field in. So we've also brought in more European men professionals that have competed. We've had the winner of the Giro d'Italia here, winner Alexander Vinokourov, finished 3rd in the Tour de France. And we've also complemented the men's race with a post-race concert that's happening right here in Ferry Park.
What kind of changes can people expect next year?
Well, we hope to continue to expand the event. We'd like to fill the weekend with get more from life activities. You know, activities that really reinforce the lifestyle and desire that people have to enjoy their life, but be highly productive and be able to work and play in such a beautiful setting in San Francisco.
That's correct. Thank you very much, Mr. Stapleton, for coming out. We really appreciate it. A great event. Temperature right now is about 63 degrees. You're right. You can't ask for a better situation. Southwesterly wind at 14 miles an hour, so a nice breeze off the ocean, and it's looking great out here. Martin?
Okay, thank you very much, Sandy, and of course Bob Stapleton, Vice President of T-Mobile, and they have done an outstanding job in this T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software. What a great race, and there was their big Russian again, talking with his team manager. I mean, is he suffering some problems or just talking about strategy at this point? They're in the front 5 group.
Talking about strategy, Brian Holm, the team director, is a Danish rider who was a member of the T-Mobile team, a great tactician, a great strongman, somewhat similar to the rider that Alldog is, this big German we see. So he understands how to make a race work, how to make someone win, how to make himself win. So you got real experts there, and for someone like Bob Stapleton, who was just on our screen, it's very rewarding to have your team in the front like this, especially with a big star like Alldog. And back to the field, strung out. We'll have to see if my prediction was right, but 6 minutes back, it's a long way, Martin.
Okay, we're going to go back to the start-finish line. We talk about big names, talk about stars. We've got one with Sandia at the start-finish line. Sandia, take it away with the big man. Sandia Pate is at the start-finish line, and Sandia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now,
Okay,
Martin.
I know you've got a big name with you. Here's the man. Yo.
He is the man, multi-talented. Robin Williams is joining me now. He can not only act on the big screen, but he can bicycle. Let me tell you, he definitely can race out there. You took part in the celebrity race, and you do this every year. Why?
It's fun. You also
you get to have that brief kind of sampling of, oh, look, I'm racing. But you're against, you know, there's actually today, there's some great people. There's an NBA basketball player who was amazing, 6'7". He had to borrow a bike. They don't make bikes that big, you know. He took off, man. It was hard.
Nice outfit, Robin.
Thank you. Don't pan down. But I think, you know, you get to wear the little tight pants.
Now, you've been doing this. Were you in Paris for the Tour de France?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
It was the 100th, so it was a big commemorative. They did this amazing parade at the very end, celebrating 100 years of the Tour de France. And it was fun, but also very moving because they had a lot of the riders, old riders were there, you know, the living ones. And then they had since Lance won 5, there were all the winners, the 5-time winners, the surviving 5-time winners, and that was extraordinary too. Eddie Merckx, Jean Hinault, Miguel Indurain, all those guys. And it was quite powerful. It's also great because you see almost 1 million people lining the streets.
Robin, tell me, how many years have you really been doing this? I know yours, but how many years, and what inspires you, really?
How many years have I been biking? My daughter's 14. I started about a year before she was born, 15.
What inspires you?
What inspires me? About biking, basically, that it's around here, especially in San Francisco, there's so much beautiful country to see. You can get on a bike, and whereas before I could run, but I could never run 50 miles on a bike. Like yesterday, you could bike 40 miles and be in the most beautiful country around. Mountains, lakes, you know. And even in the city, when you ride through the city, you head out to the ocean. Plus, in San Francisco, there's always someone to kick your ass, as we miss. I was riding the other day, and all of a sudden, this guy just went, yeah, right. And just picks, you know, that's part of it. That's why, like, you know, you can be on and find somebody to ride with, or someone that is so good that you can try and pace you and then pass people, and it's kind of nice. It's like a pickup basketball game over 40 miles. It's great.
That's great. It's great to have you, Robin Williams. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for supporting cycling. Watch the race. It gets better. It's wild. It's wild. It's like NASCAR without explosions. You know, don't be making right turns all day. People are just having a good time. And there are people out there. And for the ladies, a lot of sexy guys. Watch. And for the guys, a lot of sexy guys. You know that. Watch now. Biking. Ride hard. Ride long.
Thank you. He summed it up. We're going to toss it back to you, Mark.
Toss it back to you. Back to you, Mark, back in the newsroom.
No,
I'm
out here. I'm with you.
We still have no interviews with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Why? Answer the question. I will be back. No, answer the question. I'm going to clean up. Answer the question. I don't know.
Yeah, I love him.
Thank you, Robin Williams.
Hey, Sandia, you had your hands full. Thank you. Hey, Robin Williams in tight, short pants. That says it all right there, okay? All right, nothing more. All right, this is a group we got going here, rolling along down by the marina at this particular point.
But while we were being entertained by Robin Williams, Gort Fraser was getting dropped on the Fillmore climb. So now we are down to 4 in the breakaway. Gort Fraser was dropped on the Fillmore climb.
So that means there's only one member from HealthNet in there. Instead of having a teammate, Luxmore was going to have to pick it up himself. The chase group was about 1:47 back. What was that group right
Those are our leaders. Fraser has just gotten back onto the group, but he's showing his weakness. You get dropped once, you get dropped again. So don't look for Fraser to be working at the front very much in this race. If he tries to preserve his position in the front of it. Meanwhile, Chris Weary still at the front as always.
It's amazing. Chris Weary has really, this whole race, been up front working hard. He is very motivated.
And Cesar Grajales, of course, in second place. Aldous and Luxmore, and you say Gort Fraser is trying to maintain and stay with this group, but showed some weakness he was dropped out at one point, but he fought his way back, and he is with the group of 5.
What's interesting about this group is the strength they're showing. The chase group has been hovering between 1:40 and 1:50 seconds for the last 10, 20 miles. And they've been unable to close in on them. So very strong group in the front. It's a great ride to see.
All right, we're past the 35-mile point. This is going into lap 8 as we're looking at a 108-mile T-Mobile International presented by the BCMC software. We'll be right back with more of the racing, so stay with us. Welcome back. You're looking live at our lead group of 5 racers, and this the T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software as they roll down Union Street. There's your leaders, Chris Weary, Cesar Grajales, Aldag, Gordon Fraser back in it, and Luxman's his teammate with the health net. Fraser rejoining that group. He had fallen off a little bit. Here is your second group. Lance Armstrong trying to help motivate his team, the U.S. Postal Service team, trying to make it happen again, because they're at least 1:40 back, and the main pack is over 5 minutes back.
Now, very interesting, Lance Armstrong taking over the pull from his teammate Pavel Potnos. Armstrong now putting himself into a helper role. Obviously concerned about being 6 minutes behind. Armstrong looking to help close that gap now, working for someone else on his team, working for Akimov, not working for himself. So Armstrong putting himself in a supporting role in this race. So
he's quite a bit back. 5:40 back is that main peloton. 1:47 is the second group of about 8 or 9 riders, and this is your lead group. 5 riders that are out front as they're rolling around Columbus Street, headed down Broadway into the Embarcadero.
And it's important to note at this point that Ventura, Klinger, and Pick have been dropped from the chasers, Ventura being a U.S. Postal Service rider. So that's starting to put a little bit of a grip on U.S. Postal Service, and it might have something to do with them at the front of the field.
We talked about that before. We wanted to see if the Postal Service was happy with the combination of riders they had out front. And no one expected Ventura to be there at the end of the race, but they thought that Mikhailov could be. But only one Postal rider there, and being in a group that is making no progress whatsoever, no headway in chasing down these men in the front of our screen, the Postal Service team is seeing their race falling apart. So now Lance Armstrong has got to be saying, okay, boys, we have to do the right job. This is our hometown race. Let's try to shut down this breakaway. But you know what? They got 6 minutes to close, and if you see the way Aldog is going, Grajales, Wary, they are racing towards what they think could be a victory in this race, and they're going flat out.
Well, they're rolling around Seward Street and down Howard to the Embarcadero as they're going to come headed now toward the final few yards of completing their 7th lap. That would be about 46 miles into the race when they complete the 7th lap as they make that final turn and head down the Embarcadero. In just a few minutes, they will have completed 46 miles. This group, they've got the opportunity now to keep going, and I think this is the decisive point in this race. Are they going to be able to keep that 5:40 edge over the main peloton, and really some of their main challenges in that group?
We'll have to see how they do. I mean, they're racing hard. They're racing together. They've got a great rider up in the front there with Wary, who's a very powerful rider. A very powerful rider in Wolf Aldog, who is, you know, if you're in the professional racing world, you can't have any more respect than you possibly can for a rider like Aldog. He's tremendous. But Armstrong back to the field, 5:40 back at the front, stringing out the field, the power of a Tour de France champion.
The heart. This is a guy, I mean, he's a champion, but he's serving the role of a helper at this point. Throwing his ego aside, I'm going to help make it happen. We got to do something. Let's go, guys.
And that, what you see right now, that just proves to us that really Lance isn't so much looking out for the win, because if he was looking out for the win, he wouldn't be pulling in the wind in the front right now.
He would get pulled.
That's right, and right now he's pulling because one of their team riders in the chase group has been dropped, and now they're in the position. The onus is on U.S. Postal Service now to get up there.
It's often a game of bluff when you let a big gap open up like that. The gap headed by our Ralph Aldog and there's 4 other companions in the race. The big teams wait. They play a game of chicken. Seiko going to chase. Is Postal going to chase? And they wait and they wait, and finally one of them cracks. So what's happened now is the Postal Service have seen their tactical plans collapse, not work out the way they want to do. Collapse may be too strong of a word. And now they're trying to catch up, catch this breakaway, shut it down. And Armstrong and Podnos, the big Czechoslovakian rider who's buried himself on so many occasions to help Lance Armstrong, are doing, Armstrong is jumping into Podnos' role, burying himself to bring someone to the front who, in theory, should be Akimov. Now, Webcor King of the Mountains, our Colombian, Grajales in the lead with 15 points over Quisqueri. Livingston, who scored some points.
31 points, and Rui has 15 points.
16 points over Quisqueri. And Livingston in third scored some points early on. Right now, Grajales and Wary fighting it out. The Webcor King of the Mountain classification.
There's our leaders right there as they go along now, exchanging opportunities to lead the pack as they head down Bay Street. As you pointed out, Lance Armstrong is really going to try to pay the price and bring his team back into contention. And this group hoping to keep everybody fought off and to keep their pace up and hoping that people will wilt. Everybody wants them to wilt. We'll see.
And you know these riders are in communication with their teams. They know how far up they are on the field, and that's motivating them at this point. They say, okay, we have 6 minutes, 5 plus minutes from the field. Let's keep it together, guys. Keep motivated. We could pull this off.
Yeah, hour and 48 minutes in the race. They are now on lap 8. The group is rolling along, the group of 5 out front. Let's check in with Elizabeth Bermudez, who is at the Taylor Street Hill. Elizabeth.
Kind of like a bleachers. In fact, one of the joys of covering this event, the good-looking men. Look at this. I've got 3-year-old Ethan, 10-year-old Leo out here. Some of the hottest-looking cycling fans I found out here today. These guys are from Oakland. What do you think so far?
It's been really cool. Seeing a lot of bikers is not one of the things you see every day. So seeing 20, I don't know how many people, but coming up the gigantic hill is cool to watch.
It's really cool. All right, Ethan, here's your chance on television to ring that cowbell for me. Let me hear it.
Bikers, truck, cars.
Let me hear you ring the bell, Ethan. All right. He's been working on that for the past hour. If you take a look behind me, you will see there are hundreds, probably even thousands of people out here today. Ethan and Leo are part of the Grossman family. They came all the way from Oakland. Jill Grossman, why don't you tell me why you guys decided to trek out here today?
It's just a beautiful day. It's a really great event. We have a lot of friends who are avid cycling enthusiasts, so just thought, why not?
Steve, what do you think so far? We've been out here for a couple hours.
There are great athletes here. It's just a lot of fun and great weather. We're enjoying ourselves a lot.
So that's the Grossman family all the way from Oakland. Big cycling fans. Having a blast out here. The weather is absolutely perfect. Martin, back to you.
Okay, Elizabeth, thank you. Boy, that Ethan is a cute young fella ringing his bell, and there's your leaders. And this is like a city that's having a street fair throughout the whole city today. The leaders in the pack as they go along Bay Street at this particular point, and they are rolling along. This is lap 8, over 100, an hour and 48 minutes into the race at this point.
Bike race, a wonderful excuse for a party, and that's how they work out. The races go by, the city streets are closed down, the doors open, the bottles are uncorked, and everybody has a good time, and that's what makes a successful bike race. What makes a successful bike race as well, when you have aggressive, great riding like we see right here, Jesse.
And John, what's so amazing to me is that the cooperation needed between the city and the organizers of this race to make a world-class cycling event. Like you said, closing down roads, just the people, the residents. I mean, they're just enjoying this race. They support it, and it really shows.
All right, we're going to step away from the action for just a few seconds. We're going to go to Larry Beal at the start-finish line. He's got a very special guest from Team Saturn, one of the powerhouses in the United States. Larry.
Dell Computer. So it's a great partnership, two high-value, high-quality companies. We're looking forward to it.
I heard a rumor that every member of our TV crew would get a Saturn also.
I would love to do that. We have Views, we have L-Series, we have Ions. I'd love to do that, Larry.
Come on down and you'll take care of us.
That'd be great.
All right. Dave Smidrich, thanks very much. We appreciate your time. All right, Martin, back to you.
Okay, Larry, I appreciate you trying to work us and get us a Saturn, but at least we could take a look at some of the members of Team Saturn. Alan Dominguez there, one of the members as they roll along in the main peloton.
Ivan, a great rider, a Cuban rider, a track rider, a man who is a sprinter but also very powerful, and one of the successful riders who made the transition from the high-speed, fast pedaling of track racing to road racing. And that's a rider who I think has enormous potential. He climbs, he sprints, and can be a great star for the future of this team.
Well, Ivan won the New York race last time, so I mean, he's a guy in 2002 really showed what he can do. That's one of the premier races in America.
And he's a great story as well. He was actually representing Cuba at the Goodwill Games, and when they went home, he stayed. So he's been here in the U.S. ever since.
Well, that was a good move.
Now we talked about teams taking their responsibility, and in front, the red jersey of the Seiko team. We've been waiting for them to go to the front and start doing something in this bike race, and they're finally doing it, but 6 minutes ahead of them. 5 minutes 40 to 6 minutes are these 5 men. The breakaway that's been established early on in this race, raging down through these roads of San Francisco, scooping up all the web cooking and the mountain points, and causing a lot of concern behind them in the peloton.
6 minutes ahead of the main peloton, and that ain't going to cut it as far as you're concerned, John. You've already declared him dead.
I don't
All
see
we have to do is bury him.
We'll have to see. Well, you know, they're certainly trying now. They've certainly woken up and sensed the danger. Now, Armstrong's been in the front. We've seen the Seiko in the front, but they would have been much better off. Life would have been much easier for them had they done it when the breakaway was at 3 minutes, even 4 minutes. Would have been much better.
Okay, we see the riders, the group of 5 who are setting the pace and forcing the issue here on the T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software. We're going to have much more action. We're going to take you all the way to the exciting finish. So stay with us. We'll be right back with more. Welcome back. We're back live. The T-Mobile International presented by BMC Software. As this race is into lap 8, we've got a group of 5 who are at least a minute 40, maybe 2 minutes ahead of a chase group and at least 6 minutes in front of the main pack with the U.S. Postal Team. There is not a U.S. Postal Team among that group, as we see going past the Palestine Arch, the group of 5. But I think represented, HealthNet represented, Navigator represented, and your Colombian Cesar Grajales is there, taking his turn to pick up the lead.
I don't know about you, John, but I just, there seems to be no weakness in this first group. Besides Gord, Fraser struggling a little bit on the climbs, no rider seems to be really holding anybody back. Everybody's taking equal pulls at the front. Everybody looks pretty strong out there.
No, they're all happy with the situation. Grajales, obviously, he's scooping up those KOM points. Alldog smells the win. He's certainly strong enough to stay out there the entire day. But as you said before, we don't have a Postal Service rider in that breakaway. We have Lorenzo Lepage on the phone there. Martin, Lorenzo.
Yeah, let's talk to Lorenzo, because what's going on with the U.S. Postal Team, of course, specifically your 5-time defending Tour de France champion, Lance Armstrong. Lorenzo Lepage?
Yeah, the situation for the moment is not really good, but I think you see also the field is coming back slowly, because on this course I said it's not enough with 5 guys in the front. It's too hard, and once the field going to start to make speed, because I think there's a lot of guys in the field sitting now still with good legs, and they will make a reaction, I'm sure. So I think my team in the field is also ready to go in the reaction.
Okay.
We just wait for someone who will make the first move.
Lorenzo, has Lance Armstrong dropped out? Is it up to the rest of the team, or is he still in the race?
I must say the communication is not working so good here in the car, so we don't have enough contact with the riders for the moment. So I don't know if Lance, but I think he's still in the field.
Okay, Lorenzo, thank you very much. We're going to get back to you. We're going to keep an eye out and make certain that we can find Lance in the field. He was with the main peloton. As we see, they have cut down a bit. It's only 4 minutes and 35 seconds. That offers them some hope. And as Lorenzo pointed out, he believes that they're going to be able to, that front group is going to come back to the field. There's some question about that. We're going to find out.
I'm happy to eat my words. I didn't think they could do it. If they do shut down this breakaway, it'll be a fantastic race, and no one will be happier about it than I am. Right now, a minute 32 up on the chase is Chris Weary, Cesar Grajales, Rolf Alldog, Gord Fraser, and Luxmo, the former great junior star, back to the top of the international racing scene, along with his teammate Fraser. They are holding on, so they are not weakening. Jesse, as you said before, they're all working together very well. None of them showing any signs of weakness. A minute 32 is basically the same sort of distance has been for the past 30 miles from the chase group. But the field, the big news, the field starting to eat into it. They've made up almost 2 minutes so far.
That's a statement. If they can keep up that kind of a momentum, when you get down to the final miles and those final rides at that final 20 miles, when you got to go up that Taylor Street Hill another 4 times, that can really have an impact. And as you pointed out, that it's kind of like a boxing match, and all those blows to the body, they're going to take their toll eventually.
And I really think when U.S. Postal Service means business, they mean business. And when they're going to chase this group, all the rest of the riders in the field are all going to go to front and just do a team time trial at the front and just motor. So I really think that, like Lepage has said, that they're still in there. They haven't thrown this away quite yet.
Well, Lepage has certainly pointed out the U.S. Postal Service team director as we talked to him. He's out on the course. We talked to him via our communications, and he's indicated they think they're still in good position and that, in fact, this lead group is going to come back to the pack. That remains to be seen as we roll along there now in lap 8, making it happen, setting the pace, forcing the issue. And there's a rider now, the Health Net rider, looks like he's asking for help.
It looks as if he's summoning his team car. I don't know if it's it doesn't look as if it's a flat tire, but he's summoning the team car. He wants to talk to his team vehicle at this point. So the commissars will radio the team vehicle, and he'll come up through the caravan and come up next to the rider and be able to communicate with him.
We look as they prepare to go up another hill. Is this the Taylor Street Hill? They're making that last move.
We're going to see what happens, what to watch for on this ascension to Taylor Street. Will Grajales continue to scoop up all of these Webber King of the Mountain points, and will Frazier be able to hang on? He was dropped before. It's going to be a real sign as to whether he had a momentary bit of weakness or if he indeed is really losing form and losing strength in this raced course. Every time you go up this hill, it's brutally, brutally difficult. For us watching here, seems fine. They're just pedaling up the hill. But every bit of pain, as Nicole Cook, our World Cup winner, said, she was so happy after she won her race, that she was so happy that the crowd was screaming as loudly as it was screaming because they couldn't hear the exploding air and the pain coming out of her lungs.
Said I was sucking so much gas. If it hadn't have been the crowd, everybody would have heard. And of course, you know, Chris Weary is fighting it out with the Cesar Grajales of far, the king of the Webber King of the Mountain. So this means something as far as they're the 1-2 in the points.
And it's no surprise that Grajales is right at the front. As soon as these KOM points are available, he goes straight to the front.
Okay, let's go to the Saturn team director as we watch this battle going up Taylor Hill. Tom Schuler is the Saturn team director. Let's go to Tom and see what his take is and what's happening in the strategy in the race. Tom, are you there?
I am here.
Yeah, how's your team sitting in this race, and what are your thoughts of how it is transpiring and laying out?
Well, I think this is a great race so far. You have 5 guys in the front, you have a chase group of 7, and then you have the main group at about 4.5 minutes. And this is all within reason. That first break is not too far out there. They're enjoying the small bit of glory. They could make it to the finish line, though.
You think that it is not too far, though, that the main peloton will be able to come back and to make this a more dramatic race?
Yeah, the Saturn team has one rider in that second group, and that's Tim Johnson. So he represents the Saturn team well. We're happy with that. We don't have to do too much work, but we do have to be mindful of not letting that gap get over, say, I don't know, 5 or 6 minutes.
Okay. And what are your thoughts about the U.S. Postal Service team as you watch them? Does it look like they're going to make the move, or they're going to be the ones to try to pull that peloton up to the other group?
Well, it's a little hard to put all the weight on them. They don't have to carry the weight of the full race, but they don't have anyone in that front group. So they, like a few other teams that don't have anyone in the first 2 groups, might make a move soon.
Tom, do you see John Eustace here? Do you see the other team, Seiko? What have they been doing so far in the race? They've been remarkably quiet. Do you see the big Tour de France teams taking the responsibility of this race and joining the Postal Service team and trying to shut it down?
Yeah, it's a little hard to tell when that might happen, but I think the speed is going to go up considerably in the last 2 big laps, maybe even last 3 big laps, and the 4 5-mile closing laps. There's no choice at this point.
And Tom, earlier, I believe it was Tim Johnson next to the team vehicle. Was he experiencing any mechanical problems?
We had a little bit of trouble with Tim's rear derailleur, and we were able to fix it. So Tim's in good shape now.
Okay, Tim's your guy in that second group of 7?
Yeah, he's in the second group, and I guess they're at a minute 15 or minute 20, I think.
Okay, hey, well...
So they're just approaching Fillmore. They're on Fillmore, I guess, so here we go.
Okay, all right, yeah, this is going to be the teller. Thanks a lot. Saturn team director Tom Schuler kind of bringing us abreast. He says, hey, they think they're in good position. There's still going to be a lot of racing left as we look at this group now. that's out front, the leaders, the group of 5, but there is a group of 7. Among them, a Team Saturn member, only about a minute 30, minute 40 behind them. So there's a lot of racing left.
We definitely haven't seen any panic yet in these teams such as U.S. Postal Service, Saturn. But when they do start to panic, we will know it because they will be at the front of the field just pulling it around.
Standing on the bike.
That's right.
A very big rise up, yeah.
So still, we got our final, the latest time checks about what's going on in the race so far. Chase Group with Tim Johnson, the Saturn team, and Mick Adolph of the U.S. Postal Service team. Huntermark, the teammate of Rolf Aldog in our screen in the big pink jersey. They are still a minute 35 behind at the top of Fillmore. So no inroads into the lead of this leading group is being made by the Chase Group. Interesting to see what the next time checks from the peloton with Lance Armstrong will be, and to see what kind of progress the field is making in shutting down and catching this breakaway.
Well, this group now is going down Polk Street, headed toward the Bay. And this is a chance for them to kind of catch their breath and regroup, because then they're going to be going down Bay Street and then up Columbus and then looking up once again that Taylor Street climb. And of course, again, got an opportunity to add some points in that Webcor King of the Mountain.
Shot of the Chase Group right there. Matt DiCanio in the white and blue of the Prime Alliance team.